Welcome back, everyone. Nice little blue nose. This is the Tamiya P-51D. The D variant's pretty much what everyone thinks of now as the P-51 or a classic P-51. As you can see, it comes together really nice. I'm still leaning towards the Airfix version, but it would be a fine line. I think it comes down to price difference. The last Airfix one I did was, I think, the Tuskegee Airman. So there's really not a lot to these. They're pretty basic kits, but you can see straight off you do get a nice finished result if you take care. What I'm doing here is just adding a little bit of PVA to the instrument panel there, at least to give indication of some cockpit instruments. I'm not sure really how much difference it makes, to be honest, but so it's almost habit. And sometimes I think of this as practice. It's easy for everyone to say Tamiya is shake and bake, and to a degree that's true, but in that case it means if they're that easy, everyone should be doing them perfectly, and you don't really see that. And even in my case, I can still manage to screw up a bit here and there, and then you have to backtrack and so on. So what I'm doing now is really trying to get a really nice subsurface coat. What this is just black Mr. Surfacer, I think 1500, because while I'm far from an expert on metallic finishes, I'm smart enough at least to realize that if you don't get that substrate right, everything shows through. The slightest scratches and so on, you'll see it. It stand out a mile away. This is where I get a little bit tricky. What I'm doing now is essentially coming back over it with almost neat Mr. Surfacer. And you can see I'm really spraying it down here. What that's doing is allowing everything to settle really nicely. But I do have to say you need a good setup to do it this way. But you can see here the finish that you start to get, apart from my bad camera work. So at least to me, that's where you've got to have that really good starting point before you can even consider the metal. What I've done here is taken a little shot just to show you that I really did slap that Mr. Surfacer down, and this is it drying off. Whatever you do, if you do that approach, don't touch any of it at this point. All you'll do is put big fingerprints in there, and you almost have to, well, you really do have to start again. So you can see the difference as it dries out, and you get that almost perfect finish. At this point, I can handle the plane, but from here on, I'm very careful to really only hold it by the leading edges, trailing edges. You can also see where I've put a little tape handle onto the canopy. Now onto the Alclad. I always have mixed feelings with Alclad. I can't say I've always had perfect results with it. And I'm not using the Alclad primer because realistically it takes a day to dry properly, and I'm never that patient. And I've never really had good luck with it, but you can see here I'm getting a really nice finish as we're moving along. You can see the reflection and shine starting to build up. Some people will go to town on this. I'm not sure it's worthwhile, even if I could or had the patience to do it. One other incidental, normally any of those things like the pitot tube and antennas and things I would put on last. When I'm doing metallic finishes, I keep them on there because if you get glue on this finish later on trying to add little minute parts, you'll end up with a big 1/4 inch grey dot. So I'm very wary of that. The downside of that, of course, is that it's very easy to break them off. Here we're onto the blue nose and my crazy masking. You can see here that I do take my time slowly building up the layers. Again, with any masking, if you come on too hard too soon, that is when you'll get runs, even with lacquers. And of course, over the metallic, it does take time just to cover the metallic finish. But you can see here it's really starting to build up, getting the nice blue. I wasn't exactly sure of the proper blue, so I just followed a couple of things I read online. One reason I do like the lacquers is they're a lot tougher when it comes to taking tape off. And you can see I really go a bit crazy with bits of tape. An interesting thing to note here is even though I'm using wide tape, and for big areas I'll just use cheap masking tape, saves a bit of money compared to modeler's tape. But what I do is I use very thin, like say 2mm in this case, flexible tape as the main seal underneath. And you'll see that just as we start pulling all this junk off. And again, might look a bit rough, but mostly I'm being careful. So here's that almost, I'm not sure what you would say, primary seal. And I got a bit lucky on that one, I have to admit. You can see the blue almost come through. I did also come back and adjust that nose to get it to line up. Only after did I realize that I wasn't quite textbook on my blue. But there you can see the metal finish I've got. Essentially at this point there's only two colours, aluminium and I think it's just blue. With the spinner I did something a bit different. I wanted it to look really nice, so I used blue tack. I'm not sure what it's called overseas. It's just that poster sticky stuff. I put that on the inside and held the two parts of the spinner together and then painted it that way. The catch was it almost glued itself with paint a bit, so I had to be careful. I didn't want to be chipping anything, getting it apart, so I did take a bit of care on that side. The prop come together really nice. Just for convenience, this time I actually did the decals before I even assembled the whole thing. So you can see how it's coming together now. From this point on, really, it's the exhausts, painting the tyres, just really finishing decals. Typical Tamiya decals, so no great issues there. I'm really quite happy how it come together. The only thing is, I think there's been almost a bit of an older kit. The front of the canopy could have been better. That would be about my only complaint. If someone took probably a lot more care, they wouldn't have trouble with that. But it is something I'd say to be aware of. It's a while since I've done the Airfix one, but I do think, or from memory, I don't remember any great dramas with that. So that's how I do my larger decals. There's a lot of finger work sometimes. I will come back and do fine adjustments with my toothpicks and whatever else I've got handy. But I just think sometimes fingers are a bit gentler and probably easier to get a bit more accurate. Just my opinion anyway. I think decals is one of those things where everyone tends to work out something or a method that works for them. So yeah, do what you're comfortable with decals, but typical Tamiya decals, so no great brain drain there or whatever you would call it. So at this point, yeah, I'm really happy with it. As I said, it was as much just a cheap experiment for me to get back into doing some metal finishes. So no complaints at all. I do hope you've enjoyed that one. It's a bit shorter. Also picking up a bit more skills on my editing, which I'm sure you've noticed by now. So once again, thank you for watching, and I appreciate your comments. Liking and subscribe makes a big difference. And that's the nice little blue nose, another one to add to the collection. It's worth doing, it's cheap enough, so give it a go if you see it around. So once again, like, comment, subscribe, always like hearing from you. I'd be interested in hearing your input on my new editing. That's always good because at the end of the day, you're the ones watching it. So if you think there's improvements or something better I can do, let me know. Okay, see you in the next one. Stay safe and take care out there. Bye.